What's going on, y'all? This is Josh from Team Super Shoe. Welcome back to another episode of The Shoe Show. We're not talking about Nike skateboarding shoes that my boy Joey West uses on stage. No, we are talking about the one and only Corey LaJoie, the shoe of NASCAR, and just anything NASCAR related. Super happy to have you guys here. Today is not the 7th, it is the 17th, and big announcement. We're going to start putting out more content. We're going to do the 7th, the 17th, and the 27th. I'm not sure if we're going to do 27 this month, but going forward, we are going to, starting in October, we're going to have every 7th of the month. So 7, 17, and 27. At 7 p.m., we're going to be putting out some content, kind of splitting things up so it's not all one big bulk, because we understand that not everybody gets to sit there and watch an hour and a half long show. And it's quite a task to put it all together myself as well. So I'm kind of excited to just kind of put it out in portions. So today on the show, we're just chatting racing and also a little bit of an interview with one of my favorite, as you can see my shirt, one of my favorite rock bands. I've listened to these guys for 15 plus years. Band called Disciple. They're kind of metal, hard rock. I'll put some of it in the show so you can see and hear what they're about. They are a Christian band, and man, they do everything for God and make music that really impacts people's lives. And we're going to get to talk to our buddy from Team Super Shoe, Joey West. He is the drummer of the band. He's been doing it for about 8 years. And we're going to talk to him and get to know him about his work in Disciple. And then we're going to just talk about NASCAR racing and just talk about, current topics. So, and also, of course, my co-host and partner in crime, Mike Bostic, is going to be right there with us. And super excited to get to talk to both of these guys. So without further ado, let's just get it going. All right, y'all, we are back and we are hanging out with Disciple as well as Honor and Glory drummer, metal, hard rock Christian band. And my buddy, Joey West, he kills it on the drums. Joey, how are you, man?
Man, I'm doing great. It's such an honor to be here and be talking about one of my all-time favorite sports. This is cool.
Yeah,
so thanks
man.
for having me.
Yeah, so our guy, Corey LaJoie, he refers to his best friend, Joey Logano, as Joe or NextGen Joe. Should we call you Joe or Joey?
My real name is actually Joe. So if you want to call me that, that's totally fine. But yeah, I can't guarantee that I'll always respond because I'm so used to people calling me Joey. So
Yeah, man.
Well, thanks, man. I just want to tell you, appreciate your time and coming in and hanging out with us a little bit. My name's Mike, by the way. It's good to meet you, sir.
good to meet you.
You're obviously a big NASCAR fan, but you've got a lot going on being a drummer for a well-known name band. And obviously, a lot of fans to go out and play for. What's it like trying to juggle the tour life on top of maybe being able to attend a couple of races throughout the year?
Yeah, man. Well, speaking of coming up this weekend, you got Bristol on Saturday night, and I would have my butt in the seats at Bristol if it wasn't for having to play at a festival Saturday night in Pennsylvania. So it's really just kind of one of those things that, touring is a busy thing throughout the year, but when it all shakes out, I'm only on the road about half of the year, and the other 6 months I have off to kind of do whatever. So sometimes the stars align to where I'll have a weekend off or another band member needs something off for, a family event. And that happened last week or 2 weeks ago at Darlington. I had the week off and was actually able to attend Darlington and the North Wilkesboro late model race with Dale Jr. all in the same week. So that was a great week off from the road. So yeah, every now and then the stars align and I get to go to a race. And then when I'm on the road, fortunately I'm on a tour bus that has satellite TV. So, I've got the race on, either on the TV in the bus or it's on my phone, watching it no matter where I'm at. So I can juggle it pretty well. I still get to watch the races.
I hear you, man. So
Yeah.
if there were such thing as attending races on a normal basis, what would you say some of the tracks that you're able to go to, maybe the easiest?
The easiest one to get to for me is Charlotte Motor Speedway. I only live about an hour 15 from Concord. And then I guess the second closest would be Darlington and North Wilkesboro because they're about 2.5 hours from where I live. And then Bristol's only 3 hours. So those would be like the 4 main tracks that I go to. But I have no problem. I would love to see a race at Atlanta Motor Speedway. That's one place I haven't been yet. I really want to see one at Talladega. And I've only been to the Daytona 500 once, but would love to attend that again, or even the Coke 400 in the summertime. So those would probably the southeastern tracks would be my most visited for sure.
Maybe what's your favorite racetrack, or maybe even your dream track? I know you just kind of mentioned a couple of those there, but if you had to pick one, maybe where's that at?
Bristol, dude. I can't ever get away from Bristol. It's every time I go, I have the time of my life, and it's just a good time. And if I had to pick a track I haven't been to yet, I really want to see a race at Michigan. It seems like there's always good racing there, and my wife is originally from Michigan, so I want to get up there one day and take her grandfather to a race because he's a massive NASCAR race fan as well. So yeah.
Well, I'd have to say Michigan would probably be a good track to go to. I've never been there personally myself to see a race. I've driven by the track, I guess, when nothing was going on.
Same,
but
it's huge.
Track, out in Fontana, California, at least before they're reconfiguring it now. It's the same 2-mile D-shaped oval, and I was able to attend a race there in 2009. And you'd be surprised, the sight lines are actually a lot better than what you may think.
Okay.
Even sitting on just the 5th or 6th row back, I mean, you can obviously, depending on how much infield traffic is there, campers and buses or whatever else,
right.
You can still kind of see everything that's going on all the way around, kind of a panoramic view. So, be a good one to go to for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Joey, man, we want to kind of also ask you a little bit about your work in Disciple. First of all, I wanted to know, I've been a big fan of Disciple for 15 plus years. And I know you've been killing on the drums for almost 10 years there. How did all that work out where you ended up, starting your career there?
Yeah, man. It was honestly just one of those things. I was just in the right place at the right time. And I started touring with a band out of Atlanta in 2011. And I was with them for 2 years, and at the end of 2013, it was just kind of feeling like the band was coming to an end. It's just kind of one of those natural things that happens to a band, and everybody is getting married or having kids, or career paths are taking a different different paths and all that. And we just kind of felt like it was done. But one of our last tours in America, we got picked up opening for Disciple. And it was only like a 2-week run. I think it was about 9 shows. And I've been a massive Disciple fan since I was in middle school. And I worked at a Christian bookstore my senior year of high school, in the music department. I sold their records. I worked at a hard rock Christian radio station while I was in college. I was a radio DJ there. I spun Disciples music and had all their records. So I'm like this massive fan. So I'm in this band opening for Disciple, and I'm having to give myself the pep talk every day, like, hey, don't say anything stupid, don't make these guys not want to be friends with you. And a buddy of mine who was a former road manager for them, that I actually had no idea he had done road managing for Disciple. I just knew he was in another band. He called me while I was on tour and was like, hey man, what if I told you that Disciple is interested in you becoming their new drummer? And I was like, I would say you're kidding, and that's not funny. I thought he was just joking with me. He's like, no, he's like, I'm dead serious. He's like, Kevin called me and asked if I knew any drummers who would be good for the spot. And he's like, and you're the only person that I gave him the contact for. And he's like, and you have the leg up on all the other guys. He's like, you're on tour with him right now. And before he hung up, Evan was like, don't screw it up. And then just click, and so immediately the nerves are like there, because I'm playing with my other band and Kevin's coming out watching me every single night. The other guys in the band are coming out every other night watching me. But I mean, I just met them, and these guys have been like rock idols of mine for a very long time. So naturally I'm nervous. And then it just kind of came from there, man. Kevin asked me if I was interested in auditioning, and I said yes. And I was one of 6 drummers who went up for the spot. And after all the audition phases were over, they called me and they were like, hey, would you like to be our full-time drummer? And I took the job on New Year's Day of 2014 and haven't looked back since. So
nice. So what's the do you look back and kind of laugh about like how you were nervous, or looking at Kevin like like, man, I idolize this guy, or like,
yeah,
what's the relationship now?
Yeah, it's insane. Like when you get around people who you've only heard through CD format or like seen on a DVD or at a live show, anybody in that kind of like spotlight, you think, oh my gosh, their life has got to be this like grandiose thing and everything. And then when you meet people who are famous or have notoriety, I'll say most of them are just absolutely normal, humble, down to earth people. There's a few bad apples in there who definitely kind of like, let all that go to their head. But once I got to be friends with Kevin, and I was in the band working with him, and then also hanging out outside of the band, I mean, he's just a normal dude, and me and him are best friends now. And I could not think of a better person to work for, or an employer. And he's just all around a great friend. So yeah, it is kind of funny to look back and think about how nervous I was the first time I talked to him. But I mean, he's intimidating, man. I mean, he was super successful, and Disciple was like legendary. So I was just trying my best not to be an idiot in front of him. So it all worked out.
Yeah, something that I've always really honored about Kevin is and I've known this story since I guess 15 years since I've been a fan, and I kind of started doing research and finding out who's who and everything. But I read somewhere 15 years ago that Kevin was offered, like this, big contract from a big record label, and said, hey, you guys killing it. But we want you to tone down the Jesus stuff. And and Kevin just said, nah, man, this is who we are. And to this day, every time I go to a Disciple concert, it's like, man, I leave, I feel better. Like he's not only he's not only a great vocalist and writes, great lyrics, but like he's a great preacher, and he has that, 30-minute little segment, interlude in his set. And it's just so I honor that so much, that he literally takes say, hey, listen, this is who I am. I love God, and I'm going to do what I'm doing, and I'm making a difference in the world this way. And he didn't worry about the money. And that's something that's always been in my head. Like, man, what a cool guy, and what a cool man,
Yeah, and the reason why it connects with so many people is because what you're seeing when he's like talking during a show, it's genuinely him. It's not this script thing that he's like rehearsing in the bus. Like, he genuinely cares about people. He genuinely like wants the best for people, whether you believe in what we believe or not. Like, that's the coolest thing, is like, we're not trying to like, Bible bash people or whatnot. I mean, we have people come up, say, hey, I don't believe in God, but I love your music. And it's like, that's awesome. We're just glad you're here, glad you're enjoying it. And, I think that's why so many people connect, is because you just see the genuine people. And not only Kevin, everybody in Disciple, we just genuinely care about people. We love connecting with people, and we're just thankful that we get to play music for a living.
Yeah, man. So you have obviously been touring quite a bit now, 8 years or so. And I wanted to know, do you have any a favorite memory or a funny memory, anything that you'd want to share to the fans of the show?
Man, there's so much. Like, it's crazy, because people always ask for tour stories, and it's so funny. We'll be on the bus and we'll recall a memory, and then the minute we're asked in a VIP or an interview like this, hey, what's a cool tour story? It's like they all just go out the window, because you start crossing them up and everything. I don't know, man.
Or has there, or maybe a meaningful, like, I know I've heard again Kevin say things like, how about people have come up and said, man, I had a gun to my head and your music saved my life. Have you got anything strange like that?
Yes. So I've got two in that category. I'll try to tell them as quickly as possible. One is more of a sentimental thing, personal, and then one is like what you just explained. The first one was when we got to play Winter Jam tour back in 2014. We got to tour sold out arenas on the West Coast. And for me, I grew up going to the Winter Jam tour, like with my youth group and stuff. And one of the coolest things that ever happened, I was sitting at it used to be called the Bilo Center. It's called the Bon Secours Wellness Arena, which is the weirdest name for an arena in the history of America. But it's in Greenville, South Carolina. And I was at Winter Jam. My dad was sitting on my right. My mom was sitting on my left. We're like on the side seats. And I remember Reliant K was on the stage and just had this perfect view of the drummer. And I'll never forget, my mom leaned over to me and she like nudged me and she pointed at the drummer and she's like, that's going to be you one day, baby. And I was only like 12. And of course, I'm like, yeah, whatever, mom, I can't, I'm still trying to figure out how to like move my arms and my legs. And then that first night, the first night of the tour, we were at the arena in Albuquerque, and I stepped out on that stage, and I mean, the lights came up, and I mean, there's thousands of people, and all that just like comes flooding back to me, like my mom nudging me at 12, telling me like, this is going to be you one day. And then I was in that place, and I mean, the coolest experience. It was definitely not a moment of, yeah, I made it, I'm a rock star, I'm prideful. It was like, God, I can't even believe I'm here. Like, I'm just so thankful that I get this opportunity. And that's how I still feel to this day. Anytime I step out on any stage, it doesn't have to be in front of a sold out arena. I'm just honored that people come to the shows and pay to hear our music. So that's like the first one. That's more like a personal thing. The coolest thing I think ever happened, and I'm trying to think, hang on one second. I'm going to see if it's in this drawer. Nope. I think it's in my nightstand in my bedroom. We get letters all the time. Like people will pass letters to people at our merch table or tour manager or whatever. And we sometimes end up like with a little stack of letters on the bus, and we'll go through them and read them. And I picked up one night. I can't even remember where we were at, But I opened it and the envelope felt heavy, but I didn't really look down in there. It almost felt like there was money in there. So I was like, I'm going to read the letter first. I'm not going to worry about what's in the envelope. And so I read this letter, and I think it was like 2 or 3 pages front and back. This guy just like spilling his guts out about like his life story. And I mean, this guy has been through stuff that no human should ever go through. Like I was just, my heart was just breaking for him. And he said at the end of the letter, he's like, got to my room night. He's like, and I decided that I was going to end my life. And he said that he had a gun in his mouth and his phone was laying on his bed. I can't remember what side he said, but not really important. His phone was laying next to him. And he said, right as he was about to pull the trigger, his phone rang or ding like a text. And he's like, I took the gun out of my mouth just to see what text it was for whatever reason. He's like, and it was a buddy of mine. And he said, hey man, I know you've been going through a rough time lately. He's like, but I just heard this song and I think you should check it out. And it was our song Invisible. It was a YouTube link to Invisible. And he's like, so I clicked on, listened to the whole song. He's like, and that's the first time I ever felt like I was seen and that God loved me and that God saw me. He's like, and I chose to live that night. And what was in the envelope was the bullet that was in the chamber that was about to take his life. And he's like, I've been carrying around this bullet for a year now. He's like, and I just wanted to pass it off because I don't need this anymore. And I got to see him. I actually told this story on an episode of mine on the Rebel Society, actually. And he's a member of the Rebel Society now and saw it. And I saw him at a show, I believe it was in Sydney, Ohio last year. He came up to me. He's like, hey man, I saw your episode on Rebel Society. He's like, that was me that wrote that letter to you. And I was like, no way. And I just gave him like the biggest hug. And he's like, dude, he's like, all my depression, all my anxiety, all this stuff. He's like, it's all gone. He's like, I'm happily married now. And so like, just seeing a human go from like the deepest, darkest, lowest point. And then our song had something to do. I'm not saying our song cured him or anything, but it had something to do with his progression into choosing to live and realizing that his life was valuable. And now he's living like his best life ever, you know, and it all could have been taken away in that one moment because of the lies that he was believing about himself. And so that's why I love making the music that we make, because that was me in high school. I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't think I had anything to offer, but it was bands like POD, Disciple, that I heard this music and I was like, okay, I do actually matter. I do have something to offer this world. And so when I was given this platform to make this kind of music, I was like, I'm going to use this to spread hope and hopefully help other people in their lowest times and in their highest times. I want to make music that connects with everybody, no matter what phase of life they're in. And being a part of Disciple is a lead, and I hope I continue to get to do that for a very long time.
Man, that's heavy.
Yeah.
Dude, I had to look away from the camera because that like made me tear up. Yeah. Like, God. All right. Well,
and I kept the bullet. Like I said, it's in my nightstand. And that's like literally what played a show in Pennsylvania last night, rode a tour bus back to Nashville, got in my car, drove here, had 15 minutes, and I'm on this podcast right now. So like, I mean, I'm tired, you know, and there's sometimes it's harder than it is at other times. And I'll look at that bullet every now and then, and I'll be like, this is why I do this. And it just kind of recharges me and gets me going for the next trip. So.
Gotcha, man. Well,
yeah.
Good perception
for sure.
Reminder. Just to show you that, you know, as bad as you may think it is in the moment, like it could always be so much worse.
Absolutely.
Right? So even though I don't know that particular song, I want to tell you guys thanks
Absolutely.
for writing that.
Like, dude, thanks.
Here's and say, you know, if we could write a song and just have one person show up that it connects with, or one person streams it on, you know,
for sure.
You know, whatever, then it's all worth it. It's not really about the record sales or
Absolutely.
the glitz and that's awesome that's not lost on you guys. And
yeah, man,
that's remarks to you for sure.
All right, Joey. Well, man, that is a heartfelt. That's a crazy story. I can't. It's just, man, that's nuts. But moving from that story to this question, more of a lighthearted question. What is your dream concert at? Not just any concert, but your if you were to go and do, I don't know if it was a pre-race concert or just a concert in general at a racetrack, where would you want Disciple to go rock out at?
Dang, man. Well, I've had some friends play at Daytona for the big metal festival that happens down there. I think it happened not too long ago. I can't ever remember what it's called. Say it one more time.
Welcome to Rockville.
Rockville. That's right. Our tour bus driver also drove for a band and took one of the tour buses down there, and he was telling me, he's like, man, I was driving that tour bus around the apron. He's like, I did not realize how steep those bankings were. I'm like, yeah, son, like that's like standing next to a 4-story building. So I guess I would have to either say Daytona or Bristol. I mean, I can't ever get away from Bristol. It's just got like a little special place in my heart because I love the mountains and I just love the vibe there and the seats all the way around and just the energy of that track. I think it'd be cool to rock a show in there.
Nice.
But
yeah,
I'm not sure we could go ahead.
I was gonna say, unless it's the first All-Star race at North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, you could talk me into that one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, so we're going to kind of shift gears, if you will, to now just kind of chat more about NASCAR. So that's the whole reason why I brought you on. We've been friends and see that you get to go to a lot of cool races and kind of wanted to get your perspective. So you got to go to the North Wilkesboro race with Junior racing there and all that. And man, that the seats there, it looked like it was sold out and people, yeah. I mean, I was watching the Kenny Wallace show on YouTube, and he was talking about how those are the original stands from back in the day. And I was like, man, yes. I would be nervous sitting on those stands. So I wanted to get your perspective. Like, what was it like being out there?
Man, it was you can ask my wife. My smile didn't leave my face for like 3 straight days. I was grinning from ear to ear. My cheeks hurt after that night because I was having so much fun. I've been to well over 30 cup races at this point in my life, and they've all been fun and all been memorable in their own ways. But this race was just something different, man. Like I've never seen so many strangers high-fiving, hugging, having a good time together. Me and my wife have some old vintage Dale Earnhardt shirts, the Black Magic ones, and we were both wearing those, and we kept getting stopped like, man, those are cool shirts. I've never gotten so many compliments from strangers. But man, like just from growing up in this sport, my dad was a huge catalyst in getting me into NASCAR. I think he took me to my first NASCAR race when I was 5. And it's been a sport that me and him have bonded over our whole entire lives. And I can't leave out my mom either, because she loves racing too. And she's gone to a lot of the races with us and spent a lot of time at the track back when my dad raced go-karts, and my dad was part owner in a dirt racing team back before I came along. So well rooted in the racing history. And North Wilkesboro is one of those legendary tracks that you hear about. And they stopped racing there. I guess that was 96, right? I think was the last NASCAR race there. And I remember Jeff Gordon won, and I was a Jeff Gordon freak as a kid. So 8 years old was the last one there. And so it was kind of one of those, when it went away, I was too young to kind of realize what had happened. Now that I was older, and I heard about North Wilkesboro and Dale Jr. kind of talking about it, years ago, like hoping that it would come back one day. I was like, man, that would be so special to be able to see another race there. And in my head, I was like, there's no way they're never going to do this. It's out in the middle of nowhere. The track's been sitting for 20 plus years. There's not a chance I'm ever going to see a race there. And the minute they announced that Dale Jr. was racing in that Cars Tour thing, I called my wife and I was like, do I have permission to buy these tickets? I was like, you're really going to like the price. They're only $15 a piece versus, a cup ticket that's $80 to $100 a piece. And she's like, yeah, get them. And so, man, we went fortunately we got there earlier in the day, about 3:30 or 4. So we missed all we sat in traffic, but we missed the whole, like there was people sitting out on the road in traffic when the race was supposed to start and they were delaying it. And there was people that didn't even make it into the track because of the traffic issues of all the people trying to get in there. But we ended up getting to sit on the front stretch. The flag stand was to my right, and I want to say we were like row 8 or 10 up from the track. We were close enough that we were getting pelted with asphalt, if that tells you anything. Like I kept getting hit, and I was like, I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then I finally had a big enough chunk hit me and fall at my feet. I was like, oh, that's the asphalt from the track that's getting thrown up here. But yeah, man, I told my wife several times, and maybe I'm going too far with this story. Are you asking me more questions about North Wilkesboro? Cause I'll kind of save it.
No, this is it, man.
Okay.
Tell us, cause we weren't there. So
okay. Well, just walking up, seeing all the old Winston Cup stuff painted on the thing has faded. I mean, that brought back my childhood. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's the original stuff, from my childhood. And it was like stepping back in time, man. And there wasn't any plumbing. There was a ton of porta potties. There was issues, and they've been quick to admit that it wasn't the most perfect race day, but no one there cared at all. I was like, this is great to me. Like, I think it's awesome. Had the vendors, had great food trucks. But yeah, whenever the race started, just all the pre-race ceremonies, I'd never felt energy in a crowd like that, even when nothing was going on. Like, they hadn't even started the race yet, and you could just tell. I was like, there's something different in this crowd. And one of the coolest things that happened too is I ended up sitting next to two elderly gentlemen, and the guy sitting next to me, he was from Wilkes County, and also the guy next to him. So the guy on the other side of him was at the first race at North Wilkesboro in 1947. And so I was like, okay, God put me in this seat because I get all the history lessons and I want to learn about this place. So before it all got cooking, I was asking him, and I was like, do you remember who won that race? He was like, back then they didn't care about drivers' names. He's like, they cared about if it was a Ford or a Chevy. Like, that's all they cared about. And he's like, and don't ask me which one won, because I don't remember that either. He's like, it's been a few years. But he was super, super nice and told me a lot about the track history. And then the race itself, my gosh, man, right there at the end, Junior kind of hung around in 7th to 9th place pretty much the whole race. I think he dropped outside of the top 10 for a minute. And then they had that second competition caution, and he took the new tires on that one, and he took fuel at the first one, because I started learning the rules of the Cars Tours, that there's 2 competition cautions. And if you already know this, forgive me. But that first one, you can either take tires or fuel. You can't have both. Second one, same thing. So Junior took fuel at the first one, tires at the second one. And then you could tell that he put on some tires that might've been soaked in something. I don't know. I'm sure most of them were out there soaking tires, but, Carson Quapple, and I can't remember who was running second. They had kind of got out to a pretty commanding lead. And Junior was sitting in like 7th or 6th. And when he started moving up positions, nobody gave 2 craps about who was winning the race. Like, first and second place, nobody's looking. Every time Junior made a pass, the crowd, it was like, it just kept ramping up. It just kept getting louder and louder. And I told my wife, I was like, I'm really glad we're on these concrete things that are original, because it's built into the hill and they're not going to collapse. I was like, but turns 1 and 2, those are metal stands. And I know that they inspected those, but I pray to God we're not about to watch all these people like tear these stands down.
Yeah.
And man, when he made it up to 3rd place, I thought the stands were going to come down. And then with that last minute caution right there that kind of stacked them back up for the green, white, checkered, man. Oh gosh. Oh, it was so sick. I get goosebumps like thinking about it, just being there in that moment. It's something I'll never forget. It was the most memorable race of my life. And actually a really funny story, if I can share it real quick too.
Yeah.
Carson Quapple, who won that races for Junior Motorsports in the Cars Tour. Me and my wife got married this past January, and we went on our honeymoon to a resort in Cancun. And like all the resorts there, they have different restaurants that you can eat at different nights. And one particular night we had picked like this Japanese hibachi place that you sit at the community table with, and they cook it in front of you. And there was two ladies sitting next to us, and we got to talking to them, and she asked us where we were from. And I told her, I was like, we're from South Carolina. And she's like, oh, I have a family that lives in Concord. I was like, I've been to Concord many times, Charlotte Motor Speedway. I was like, I'm a NASCAR fan. And she's like, I actually have family in NASCAR. And I was like, who? And she's like, my nephew his name's Carson Quapple, and he races for Junior Motorsports with the Cars Tour. And at this point, I didn't know what Cars Tour was. I didn't know who Carson was. And I was like, you've got to be crapping me. Like, this is awesome. And so we started talking NASCAR, and I went and looked up Carson immediately on Instagram, gave him a follow, and actually just shot him a message. I was like, hey man, you don't know me. I was like, but I just randomly met your aunt in Cancun, Mexico. And just want to let you know you got two new fans in South Carolina rooting for you. And he took the time to message me back, which I thought was really cool. And so getting to see him win that night was also really special because, you know, I'm going to follow him. I have a feeling he'll be racing on Sundays sooner or later. But yeah, so, I mean, Wilkesboro, if you get the chance to go, do it. I somehow lucked out and was one of the lucky ones in the 1,000 that got to sign up for the priority tickets for the All-Star race. I somehow got my payment to go through, and they sent me a confirmation email. So I think I'll be at the All-Star race next year.
Oh man.
Yeah. That's awesome. You're lucky. That was apparently a whole fiasco. With trying to do the ticket deal. So
I was driving to Nashville when it went live, and I pulled over at a rest area and was on their Wi-Fi. So I was like, I want the best connection that I can get. And it was just error message after error message after error message. And I finally gave up, and I was like, well, I'll just start riding up the road, and I'll just keep hitting the button, you know, keep trying. And then eventually, like on my last try, I was like, I'm giving up after this. An email came through. It said, here's your confirmation. You've been signed up for the priority tickets. I was like, God loves me.
Yeah. Good job. You just bought 200 tickets.
Oh yeah. I did go check my bank statement to make sure that I didn't charge $50, $25 donations to Wilkesboro. So
nice. I imagine you talking about the fans going crazy. And you said Quapple. It was Travis Quapple back in the day, right?
I'm pretty positive. Like, I don't know if they have any relation. But
I bet it is. I don't know. I barely remember Travis Quapple, but I remember the name.
Yeah, and when she said Quapple, I was like, that name's been around in NASCAR, and I just couldn't place it. But now that you say Travis, I'm like, that was a thing. So
man, I grew up. My first race was the '98 Daytona 500 when Earnhardt won. I'm out in Florida, so been in Miami and Daytona a lot. And nice, yeah.
I just found this in it. Sorry, you said that, and I was like, hey, I have something from that.
Yeah, man. So, but I went to Daytona year after year for a long time. And man, I grew to hate Dale Jr. and it was nothing to do with him.
Oh,
it was just that it was like, they like you said, it was that exact feeling. Like they would cheer for him going from 20th to 19th, and it was like 90% Earnhardt fans out in the crowd, and I just couldn't get over it. But now I've grown to appreciate him. You know, 98, I was 12, so you know. I've now grown to appreciate it, and I definitely wouldn't be that way now. But like back then, I was like, "Who cares?" You know.
Oh, that was the thing, man. You were on one side or the other. You know, especially after Senior died. You know, it was Earnhardt Jr. or Jeff Gordon, you picked a side, and I liked both of them. I've never been hardcore against any driver. There might be a few that I don't particularly care for, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I just want to see a good race and a good finish. That's all I want to see. So
yeah, man.
But
yeah, man. Well, we wanted to kind of talk about the other race you got to go to, Darlington. Got to see Eric Jones win in the 43. I'm not particularly a Eric fan, but I do love the 43. That was, my first pick growing up was Richard Petty, and just followed the 43 for a long time. And so it's cool to see that. And I remember them saying something about there's a 50-year anniversary since the last time 43 won at, Martinsville or whatever. So super cool.
Yeah. I think they said it was to the day.
Yeah.
As well, which is insane.
Yeah. And our guy, Corey LaJoy, he had a great race, and he finished 23rd, I believe. But it really didn't show what they were killing it. I mean, for Corey and their, the low funded team and the struggles that they have, he was running up, and, I think I got as high as 15th or 13th. He even was leading. I mean, granted, it was a pit strategy thing, but just to see him and all the TV time, man, it was a great day. And we were stoked on Team Super Shoe on the Facebook page. And man, it was a bummer to see him smack the wall and kind of, break whatever he broke.
Yeah.
So
those cars, they break pretty easy these days.
Yeah. So that's what I want to talk
take much.
about. That's all I want to talk about. So what really stuck out to me at Darlington is that, you have the Kevin Harvick car fire, where he just kind of drove it around for a few laps, and then the fire didn't go out. So he got out, and then it engulfed. And the rocker box issue, last time that they had that was with that I remember, it was Chris Buescher at the Indy Road Course, where they ended up putting it out, and he still, raced the rest of the race like a man. I thought that was pretty awesome. But I'm starting to look at some of these things, and I'm starting to wonder, is, this car, is it safer and tougher than Gen 6, or is this thing even more fragile?
Yep. Kevin, just talk about what happened there.
The rocker panel just caught on fire. It's we just keep letting cars burn up, letting people crash into stuff, get hurt. We don't fix anything. Now we just riding around out there and the car catches on fire. So just shitty parts.
Your attitude at this point, obviously, I mean, you've been frustrated anyway, but now it affects your race in the playoff.
Well, they don't care. It's cheaper to not fix it. How do we change it? Find somebody to run this show that can run it.
You got the toe link issue, where basically it's made to break. It's made so that they don't end up hurting the transaxle and all that when they slam the wall. But I don't remember, like, the Gen 6 when they were to hit the wall at Darlington or wherever it is. I don't remember things breaking and their day being done. And on top of that, you have like Kurt Busch being out with his concussion, and his, granted, I'm sure inside that car it was a wicked hit, but watching it on TV, it was practice or qualifying, and it just kind of looked normal. And on top of that, you've had several drivers kind of talk about like how these wrecks hurt so much more in this car. Denny Hamlin expressed his frustration at Daytona, and like he even came on the radio sounding like he was in agony. And
that was hard to listen to. I was like,
you got Harvick's fire and several other rocker box issues, I guess, with the Fords. You have had 10 crew chief suspensions this year over the tires falling off from the new one lug, and then again, like I said, the toe link issues. So wanted to throw it to you, Joey, and you guys. What do you think? Is this something that needs to really be? Is this growing pains of this new car, or is this something that NASCAR is going to have to completely revamp for next year?
Yeah, man, it has to be some kind of growing pain type thing. But honestly, whenever they switched to the Gen 6 cars, I don't recall that era or that switch too much, but I don't remember there ever being this big of an issue, like with multiple things. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, if it was just one driver complaining about stuff and, kind of doing like the same, like just being whiny about it or whatnot, I'd be like, okay, there's probably not that big of an issue with the car. It's just this one guy who wants to complain about everything. But like when you have multiple drivers talking about how hard the hits are in the car, because you can tell when they hit the cars don't crumple like they used to. Like that used to be where the most of the impact went, was the car absorbed it. But now it seems that the car's not absorbing it enough and the driver's taking most of that impact. And you can't have that when you're hitting the wall at 160 to 180 miles an hour in some of these instances. I don't even know how fast Kurt Busch was going. It didn't look like he was going that fast on his hit. And for him to have a season-ending injury, that's just unfortunate because like he's one of the most talented guys on the track. And I definitely think it's one of those things that they've got to figure out something, because if all the drivers are saying it and you continue to not do anything about it, that's a really bad look for the sport. I was like, and these are the guys who are bringing the fans and putting their butts in the seats, who are selling the t-shirts. They're the ones who are making the sport go around, no pun intended. And if you constantly keep them in this like even more heightened sense of danger than they are already in, how long are they going to last? Like it's almost kind of like NFL football players that you used to see those guys like last for long careers. And now the average is 2 to 3 year NFL career because of the hits and everything. So are we going to start seeing guys have to retire early more often until they get this fixed because of injuries, head injuries? So I definitely think the driver's safety is a priority, but the dang toe links, they're a problem. I don't know much about like the inner workings of a car, but it seems like I hear about a toe link every race or every other race. And it's like, okay, this is an issue. So I think that they got to fix that. And I so wish they'd go back to the 5-lug wheel. Cause it's like, if you have 2 lugs fail, you got 3 more holding it on, and it's just frustrating. And it also just took away the art of the tire changers, and which is why I've actually gravitated more towards watching Xfinity this year, because I've actually thought that their races are the best product that NASCAR's got right now. While I do love watching Cup races, I find Xfinity way more entertaining. Yeah, I miss those 5 lugs. Not that I'm one of those fans that's like, oh, single lug, I'm never watching again. Not that, but I just hope that they realize like this might have been not the greatest idea, and they maybe go back to the 5 lug in the future. But it seems like at the beginning of the season, it was just every other race a wheel was flying off, rolling down the track, and then the whole like crew chief suspension and all that stuff. I don't know about all that, man. So
I'm with you there. As far as luck goes, like I don't get why we still have this penalty where if you lose a tire, you lose a crew chief for 3 races and you lose a pit crew member or whoever else for X amount of time. Like that whole penalty was formulated whenever we had a 5-lug wheel, and a lot of teams, maybe on the last stop of the day with just 10 laps to go, they'd only hit 3 or 4 of the lugs. And it's only a fraction of a second that you save, but it might pick you up another spot or 2 on.
Absolutely.
So they looked at, well, if you got a loose wheel, then we'll penalize you in hopes that, that'll refrain you from, doing that same action again. Well, now with the 1 lug, I mean, if the tire falls off the car, isn't that penalty enough? Like,
yeah.
I mean, typically that causes the race car to get wrecked, or, maybe it destroys the whole under diffuser or whatever else.
Right.
I don't know why we still have that penalty. But to go back to Josh's question, as far as, is it growing pains or, is it this or that? There's obviously going to be a lot of stuff that's got to be figured out with an all brand new car. But what kind of disgruntles me is, so the next gen car was supposed to have came out in 2021, but obviously with the whole coronavirus deal or whatever,
right,
it messed up the whole deal on that. I still feel like there should have been a lot more research that was able to be done, like almost with the whole year in delay. Like, we can't get parts to build the cars, but can't we still formulate different models or, numbers into a computer and kind of simulate what G-forces might be or whatever?
Yeah.
I'm not an engineer, it just seems to me there's probably a lot of areas that could have been better out of the gate, and it just sucks. Like when LaJoy hit the wall this past weekend at Kansas, like I had commented back in the race chat, I was like, I know the guy got out of the car under his own power, but like I hope he's feeling all right. Like, you know, he had a car come across him and, you know, bounce off the wall a couple times, and we shouldn't have to really question whether or not, you know, is a driver okay just because he tagged the wall.
Right.
Not like he flipped and did all this other crazy stuff.
Right.
So I don't know. That was long-winded, and I apologize, but that's my
my motto is long-winded. I think that's my middle name. Once I get talking, I talk a little too much, but yeah, I totally agree with. I feel like it was fast tracked a little too much. It almost seemed like it was just rushed because NASCAR wanted this new thing to be a thing. And when you got guys flying around a track at almost 200 miles an hour, you know, and you're going to put them in a car that hasn't been properly like figured out as far as their impact and what their bodies are going through. I don't know. It just seems like kind of a bad look to me. But again, like you said, I'm not an engineer. They might know more than I do. And fortunately, nobody's gotten like, you know, life-ending injury. But it still sucks that Kurt, you know, that's enough. Like that shouldn't be happening. So
what do you think may happen with his career? Because like, if you remember, right, a couple years ago when he won at Atlanta, this was before they repaved and reprofiled. He's like, I would really like an opportunity at a ride next year. I really want to be able to drive these next gen cars, right? So he was supposed to have retired at that time. And now, so I kind of almost feel like the whole next gen car was maybe just like a 1 year off kind of deal for the guy anyway. I kind of wonder now, like, does he even come back for the Daytona 500 next year? Do we get an announcement going, hey, we've already got these other cars filling up. We got Ty Gibbs coming over to do this and that. And I don't know. Just kind of makes me wonder if that's it for the guy.
I don't know, man. These race car drivers, man, they just got the itch to race, and Kurt is a competitor. And if I had to guess, if he's healthy, I would say he's going to come back for at least one more year. Because I mean, he was in the playoffs, and I don't see him walking away from this if he's healthy without giving it one more shot to get to a playoff and see what could happen. Just because of his competitive nature and, you know, his ability to drive. He's one of the best ones to ever sit behind a wheel, in my opinion. You know, I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of him at first, but through the years, I've actually gained a lot of respect for him, and who he is now. So,
yeah, for sure. You go and you YouTube Kurt Busch interviews, man. It's, you know, he's the first Busch before we saw the Ultimate. You know.
Yeah, those Busch boys, they're crazy. That's for sure. Kyle's cleaned up his act a lot recently.
yeah, he's working on that contract, which is crazy. It's crazy that possibly the best driver in the Cup garage is losing his ride. I'm really hoping that they have some type of, documentary or something that comes out and says what exactly happened. You know, like, how is it that he loses his sponsorship, and so then that means he loses his ride at JGR? Like, I mean, I guess it must be just, I don't know if it just boils down to his attitude. I don't know, but that's nuts, you know?
I've got no theories on that. It's always hard to say. Cause I mean, you know, it seems like for a while now, you know, you can't keep up with what drivers in what car anymore and what sponsor and what number they're moving to. You know, it seems like they're changing them out like crazy. And so for him to be there 15 years, I think it was, or maybe a little bit over. It's crazy that he's going to be moving. I'm assuming it seems like the rumor is Richard Childress probably taking over the number 8 car. But we'll know something tomorrow morning. There's an official announcement coming. That's all. So
we are recording this on Monday. It's going to come out actually Saturday of the Bristol race. So when this airs, we'll all know, and we'll all have been talking about it. But since I guess tonight is technically the Bristol race, wanted to know who you guys see getting bumped out of the last 4 spots of the playoffs. We got below the cut line, and 13th you got Kyle, 14th you got the 3 car, 15th and 16th you have the 14 and the 4. And Harv is 35 points behind. I don't think he's going to be making it. And then above the line that is kind of at risk. Granted, obviously nobody wins the race that's in the not chase, but the playoffs, is going to be the 99 and the 8 and the 2. So do you guys see much of a difference in the bottom 4 that we have now versus what we're going to see on Sunday?
Go ahead, Mike.
No, I don't see a whole lot in there. Kevin Harvick's like, he's all but out without a win, right? And with probably have to pick up some stage points and whatever else to advance. I don't think Cole Custer's really been around long enough to, I guess, have visited enough tracks to really gain the rhythm and the timing of them. So, like, basically what I'm trying to say, I don't expect him to be a threat to contend well enough to advance his position up over the cut line. I don't see a whole lot of change at all. I just, I don't know. Kevin Harvick's not advancing. I hate to pick on the guy, but it's just not happening. And it does suck. He lost a car at Darlington, like he said, we didn't hit anything. We didn't hit the wall, not a car, didn't run over anything. It caught on fire and burnt down. And then now, at Kansas, kind of getting forced 3 wide with no room there or whatever. I mean, it bounced him out again. So it's a tough break for those guys, but I definitely think it's the end of the road for sure.
Yeah. I won't count out Harvick yet because he was like that sleeper that whole season and then just snuck those 2 wins back to back. So, I mean, I know he knows Bristol and, without a win, I definitely think he's out, because that's a deep hole to dig yourself out of. I definitely think the 14 and the 3 are gone for sure. Austin Dillon getting in, I was like, I don't think he's going to last very long. Now, I will say Kyle Busch is really good at Bristol, and I could see him pulling off a win. And I still don't understand the whole like points format or anything, so I don't know. But out of the cars you said, the 99, the 8, and the 2, I would put Cindric potentially having a bad night and somehow dropping out, and Kyle Busch moves into that round of 12. So I think that's what I'm going to go for. Because Reddick and Suarez are having a pretty good year. I mean, Trackhouse is not too, that is Suarez, right? 99. I am correct.
Yeah. And then Ross in the 1.
Okay. Yeah. In the 1, sorry. And then 8, Tyler Reddick. So we're talking about the 2, the 8, and the 99. Yeah. I don't know, man. I think Cindric might just get caught up a little bit in Bristol. I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Well, Joey, we're going to wrap this up. I know you got some dinner waiting. So man. I wanted to ask you, obviously I've been a part of the Rebel Society for a few years. I wanted to have you let all our viewers know where they can find you guys, discover your music, and discover your social media stuff.
For sure. So our band name is Disciple. We're not the Disciples. We're not Disciples. It's just Disciple, no plural. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, or anywhere you stream music. We are not to be confused with EDM band in Europe who continues to use our name despite legal teams telling them to stop. So if you're hearing like dance trance music, that's definitely not us. Look for the music that's screaming at you. We sound very angry. You can find the band on all social media platforms at Disciple Rocks. I'm on Instagram as well, Disciple Joey. And then, like he said, the Rebel Society is our Patreon. So if you like our band and you want some more monthly content from us, it's a great way to support us. Just surviving as musicians these days, everything's expensive and it's a little harder to be a musician. But you can find that at patreon.com/Disciple Rocks. And beyond that, I think that's about it. So
nice, man.
Yeah.
All right,
guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming, man. This is very cool to talk to you and talk about racing nonetheless. And Mike, once again, thanks for coming on the Shoe Show as usual, my trusty co-host. So, all right.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Well, I just appreciate it. Y'all take care. once again, Joey, man, this was so cool. Thank you so much for coming on the Shoe Show. And it's great to get to know you. And again, it's really I really tried hard not to look like a geeky fan. So cool to have you on the show, have you part of Team Super Shoe. And I love what Disciple's about and all the differences that they're making. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. This is episode number 11 of the Shoe Show. We're coming up to a year of the show. That's pretty cool. And we just got to a landmark. We got over 100 subs, which means that we finally got to make the URL official, youtube.com/C, I guess, for channel /C/Team Super Shoe. So for all you subscribers, thank you for that. And for all the fans that has been hanging out with us on Team Super Shoe on Facebook, this has just been a wild ride. And how cool is it? So I appreciate you guys. And until next time, we'll see you next month on the 7th. And again, we're going to be talking the 7th, the 17th, and the 27th at 7 p.m. So y'all, God bless. And we'll see you next month.